Hey there, bud. Welcome to another episode of Three Toe Customs. I'm your host with the most, Three Toe Joe. If you didn't know, well, now you know. Well, if you own an ATV or side-by-side, at some point in time, unfortunately, you're going to have to get into replacing your wheel bearings because, well, they don't last forever. It's all part of the maintenance thing. The bearings go bad. It's always best to change them before, things wear out too much and start damaging other components in your suspension. So what we're going to be going over today is we're going to show you how to inspect your wheels to tell if you need wheel bearings. And then we'll show you how to go about changing them here on these Polaris RZRs. And most of this holds true for just about any ATV or ATVs. So if that's something that interests you, well then follow along.
Okay, let's do this fucking shit.
Okay, so maybe you've been driving along, you've been hearing some clunkings in the front, maybe you just noticed you had some play in there. But one of the easiest ways to tell if you got a bad wheel bearing is you just walk up to your machine, you grab the top of those tires like that, and you just give them some good tugs. Now see, I can feel some play in this wheel, and when I go over to the passenger side, I can feel some play. Now it's very minimal, it's just starting, the bearings are just starting to go bad. But that's going to be your first indication is, if you go and you grab your machine and you give her a pull like this, you'll feel that there's some play in there. Now that doesn't always necessarily mean that it's your bearing that's bad either. It could be a ball joint, could just be quick loose tie rod end, and you're feeling that instead. But generally when the bearings go bad, you can really tell that it's inside the hub that it's moving. But then we can always take it a step further and I'll show you what I mean. Alright, so the best way to tell what's going on with your wheel bearings or in your suspension is just grab yourself a jack, get the front of the machine or the rear of the machine jacked up, and we'll get through going from there. Okay, so once you get your machine jacked up, it's the same idea. Grab your tire, top to bottom even, and just give her some wiggle, and you can feel that play. See, this one here is very minimal in this one, but it's better to get them before they go totally bad. So if you want to know if maybe, let's say it's a ball joint or something, one way you can do that is either grab a big pry bar and then put it up in between your ball joint and just pry it up and down to see if there's any play in there. Or sometimes it's even nice too if you can have a friend with you and maybe he can wiggle the tire and you can have a look in there to see if there's any movement in the ball joints or anything. But most of that stuff's pretty visual and it's really easy to tell once you get the machine jacked up off the ground. So now let's go ahead and let's get started and getting these bearings changed out. Okay, now that you have your wheels off your machine here, basically what we're going to be doing to get at these wheel bearings is you got to get your hub off and your main knuckles. So we'll go and we'll show you how to get into that there first. So I always like to start from the outside in. First part you're going to be digging at here is your cotter pin for your castle nut and your castle nut. Get that all off and we'll show you a little closer up here. So if you guys want to zoom right in. Okay, so first things first, like I mentioned, that you need to do is basically remove this cotter pin. Thankfully this one here looks pretty new. It doesn't look like it'll give me too much of a fight, but sometimes these can be a pain in the butt. So what I recommend to start with is a good pair of pliers or vice grips, and sometimes you even need something nice and pointy like this so you can just kind of get it up underneath the lip and use that to just kind of pry it out a little bit just to get her started, and then you can usually get a better grip with your vice grips. But whoever put this one in here, they didn't put it in there very well, so it doesn't look like it's been in there super long. Nice and easy. Then next step here is going to be getting your castle nut off. So impact gun will be your friend on this one. Alright, so 27 mils what I've been using on these, most of these Polaris RZRs, my 900S and my 1000 XP and this XP Turbo, they all use the same size, 27 mils. So if you don't have a 27 mil impact socket, you'll need one of those. Alright, so from here, basically once you get that off, or you can even save that for the next step, it doesn't really matter which one you do first. But from there, we got to get our brake caliper off, so we're going to go ahead, we're going to get this off. and keep moving along here. Alright, so two bolts to take off the caliper. You got one at the top, one at the bottom here. 15 mil socket. I usually like to start like that just to get them started. It's usually on there pretty good, or they should be at least. Hammer hands. Then usually what I do to save some time from there is I just switch over to my little impact driver and finish them off. A lot quicker than wrenching. Maybe one of these days I'll invest in a real little impact gun there, battery operated. Come in real handy for stuff like this. And then the caliper should be ready to pull off. Where it should be. There we go. It's just on there a little tight. And, just set this side here for now. Up here somewhere is safe. It's not going to yank on the cord. And should be able to pull our hub off now. Perfect. Nice. No inner race stuck on the hub. Hopefully we don't run into that today, but if we do, we'll show you how to take care of her. So next part here we're going to take off is our bottom shock mount here. So same thing, 15 millimeter socket. Most of the suspension components will be. And that one there is on there good. There. Same as always, if I have access, I'll jump to my impact gun because it speeds things up. Save some wrenching time. Take the weight off from here. Good to go. Alright, so what I like to do from here is I like to just pick up my shock here, and what I'll do is I'll get a zip tie ready and zip tie her up to the frame here. Help hold her out of the way. Perfect. There we go. There. Nice enough out of the way. Just basically zip tie the shock reservoir to the little notching frame there. Good to go. So on these Polaris RZRs, with those kind of shocks, that makes it nice and easy actually. Alright, so next step here, we're going to go ahead, we're going to get our tie rod end removed. So I got a couple little tricks for that as well. And I'll show you that here in a second. Alright, so bottom nut, 18 mil. And just make sure you're going lefty-loosey, and good to go. So sometimes what will happen with these is they can turn on the inside. So hopefully that doesn't happen to you. And it just comes right off, which is what's happening with this one. Good to go. So basically, chances are your tie rod's not going to come right out. So I find the easiest way to do this here is to grab your hammer, and I'll show you just what I mean here in one sec. Alright, so like I'm saying here, I got a nice 2-pound ball hammer here that I love to use on just about everything. I call this guy Frank because he's like Frank's Red Hot Sauce. I use this shit on everything. So basically, just take a little bit of tension out. And maybe even sometimes it's easier if you hold the tie rod on, but just do a couple of whacks here. Usually she'll pop out, but sometimes they're a little more stubborn. There we go. Oh, it's just a matter of getting a couple of impacts there to loosen up the joint. You won't hurt anything. And good to go. So our tie rod's off. So now basically we're going to jump up here. Oh, 15 millimeters again. Good old 15 mil. Again, something like this once I just get her started. Jump over to my trusty impact driver. Makes my life easier, speeds things up. And then bottom one. It's just going to be a matter of taking some weight off and sliding your bolts out here. And by the feel of it, these are going to come out fairly easy. one. And there's two. Perfect. Easiest ball joints I ever slid off in my life. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Alright. So now we're going to take this bearing over to the bench and we'll show you how to take this bearing out here. Okay, so if you guys look really closely here, you're going to see, you can almost even tell exactly what kind of grease they use. Still nice and thick here on the edge, but it's like pinkish, reddish grease. I'm not going to go all the way and say it's Lucas because it doesn't look red enough. But basically, here's what happens when you over-grease your bearings. Look at all this grease that's everywhere. I mean, you don't want that. I mean, a little bit of anti-seize maybe on the inside, but you don't need grease like this. And I can almost guarantee you this was from over-greasing the bearings, and I'll tell you exactly how I can tell. So, if you look at this bearing here, I mean, just look at all the amount of grease in here. And look how black it is. I mean, basically, this grease was just overheated. It ran black, and it basically started leaking out everywhere. And basically, that lets dirt and everything stick to them. And just makes it a mess when it comes time to change them out again. So, we're going to go in here, and we're going to clean everything all up. And we're going to show you guys how to install the bearings and how I grease them to prevent this kind of mess here from happening. Alright, so now that we have our hubs out, basically the first thing we need to do, some models, just pay attention wherever there's a lock ring, that's the way that the bearing is going to come out. So on some models, I think my old RZR 800, if I'm not mistaken, it might have been in the front. I can't remember, it was probably in the back as well, and I'm just mistaken. But this one here on the SP Turbo is definitely in the back. And then you can see here, it's got this big C lock ring here with the holes in it. So basically what you need yourself is you need yourself a tool like this. For this size of C-clip, this one here is not really ideal. It will get the job done, but not exactly the way it should. So basically you should have some nice bigger ones. And usually if you have a set that's actually curved downwards and they're long enough to get in there, it would be easier that way. But for demonstration purposes, we don't have a set of those. We do have a set of these. I can make them work. One thing that you kind of should do though is kind of put a rag or something over top. So that way there, when you're going at it and you're trying to pull it out, if the spring does release and pops off, it does have quite a bit of snapback. You don't want that flying up in your face. So you just put something over top just to kind of help keep things secure. But besides that, you're just going to get your tools in those little holes there. And you're going to use these guys to compress the ring a little bit. And in this case here, the only way that I'll be able to get these out is I'm going to have to do this double-handed here. And I'm going to have to get what I just want to do first is get that lined out there. And once I get it compressed enough towards the edges, I can get a screwdriver flathead in there. If you have a good size one, you can compress them and just kind of maneuver it and lift it out. But with that one there, I already know that that won't work with that. So this is the way we have to do it with this little one here. Man, it's always fun when it slips back in. I will get this. I just want to leave a couple of failed attempts here for you guys so you guys can see that this is not the easiest part, especially if you do not have the right size tool. There we go. So once you got one side out, bam, pop her out just like that. And that's what you got to be careful for. That's why I should have had a rag there, but if I did, you guys wouldn't have seen. So I basically sacrificed myself for your benefit. But thankfully she flew out that way. We're good to go. So now we're going to take this over to the press and show you how to get this out. All right, so thanks to my neighbor Tim. He hooked me up with a nice little press here from Princess Auto, 12-ton press. You know, pretty affordable, and for just a little shop doing little things like this comes in really handy. If you ain't got one like this in your garage, you need to go pick yourself one up. They're pretty affordable at Princess Auto. I think they're under a couple $100, 12-ton press. really comes in handy for doing jobs like these. So there is another way to do it. So if you look really closely here, you'll see these little ovaled out areas. So basically what you could be able to do is if you had a pin punch or something nice, strong, flat, and then you just kind of put it in each groove, and then you bang it out with a really heavy hammer. But I'm telling you right now, good luck. These are usually in there pretty good, and you could be banging on them for quite a while before they even budge. And I'll show you just what I mean here with the press. All right, so here we are at the press. If you notice here, I have 3 extra little plates, so 1/8, so 3/8 extra. The reason for that is on the back side here. Basically, these are your only 2 edges here that are really flat and strong that you can use to set your, and one of them sticks out a little bit further than the other. So I got it basically figured out with my level that if I put the short side under these 3 plates, we should be good to go. Just a matter of trying to get it lined up pretty good here, and then once she's lined up, start cranking her down. So when you're going, you're going to be like, man, this ain't going to work. This ain't moving nowheres. And then all of a sudden, you're going to hear it give. There we go. Once you hear that pop, pretty much good to go. She's coming. So with this press at the height that we had to have her set up, we can only just get her just about almost all the way. And then what we'll have to do is we'll just have to finish her off with the hammer here. Hammer down. Yeah, didn't need too much to finish her off. She's almost there. Pull the bearings out. Nice and rusty, nice and dirty. We'll have to get this all cleaned out and then start getting our new bearings in. All right, so once you get your bearing out, before you put your new one in, just the inside of this hub and that bearing there had a bit of corrosion on it. So what I like to do is just take a piece of really fine grip sandpaper and just kind of give the inside a little bit of a cleaning here, just to make sure that you're going to a nice clean surface when you put your new bearing in. You don't need to go too far to town on it. You just want to make sure you get her nice and clean, especially down at the bottom edge lip down there. I don't know if you guys can see that well. You want to clean that out too, so that way there you know your bearing's seating in there properly. Alright, so now that you have your new bearings ready to press in, so if you don't have that press tool kit like I showed you and you did manage to get your old bearing out, good job by the way. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a trick on how to use your old bearing to press in your new bearing. So if you guys want to see what that little trick's all about, just follow me over to the grinder here. Okay, so basically you take your old bearing. You get everything hollowed out the center, not too hard. Sometimes you just need a screwdriver or something to pry out the center races, but usually not too bad to do. And however you decide to hold her down, I'm going to use my bench vise. Now what we're going to do next, we're going to take our angle grinder and we're going to kind of slit right straight up the center of the race. And basically what that'll do, I'll show you guys in a minute, but when we use this to press in our new bearing, it'll compress. And it'll be a lot easier to get it back out of the hub afterwards. So, a little trick I've picked up over the years. Just cut a little slit to her, that way there it'll allow it to bend in, and you'll be able to get this out of the hub a lot easier. And I should also note as well, normally you should put like a little dab or two of Loctite on the outer race just to make sure that it locks into the bearing. If these are pressed in, they're not really usually that important to do, but Polaris does recommend it. I didn't happen to have any blue Loctite on hand, so unfortunately this one's not getting it, but normally you would do that. But like I said, it's not super important if you skip that step. Oh, we're just gonna get our plate here, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna add this extra press piece here just to kind of distribute the pressure a little more evenly over the race and see how that goes for us. There we go, slide it in nice and easy, just like she should. Fighting going on here. Probably end up running out of height on the press. Yeah. We'll have to go up one more notch here, but we're pretty much almost there. All right, so now that we have our bearings pressed in here, we're basically at our final stage here, which is getting these lock rings back in. So this can be usually a little bit easier to get them in than it was to take them out, because you don't really have to fight with screwdrivers and stuff like that. And normally should be able to just get your tool in there and compress it enough. Just be very careful and push it in, and bam, just like that, she snapped right into place, easy peasy. Like I said though, if you have the proper size tool, even taking them out's not that bad. Just make sure you clean everything out really good, because there's usually a lot of dirt and stuff crudted all up in there. So we'll get our last clip ring in here, we'll get these installed, and then we'll show you how to grease these bearings properly here. All right, so to grease your bearings, what you're gonna need is one of these nifty little tools. So just make sure that you know what you're using it for. So most Polaris razors, all the Razor 900s, 1000 XPs, Razor Turbos, they all use a 44 millimeter greaser. The old Razor 800s, you need a 44 and a 40 because the front and the rears are different in the races. So basically, I said I was going to do this after we install it, but I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to grease these right now just to show you guys on the bench here. Okay, so to grease your bearings, pretty simple. So these greasers here, they're designed to fit in there, and they usually slide over your axle. So pretty easy. You just stick your bearing greaser in there, slap your grease gun on her, and I'd say I normally give her about 6 or 7 pumps. I try not to overdo it, and of course my grease gun is 100% just about empty. There we go. Just clean that off. That should be more than enough. This one here, they got the seals on the inside of the bearings and the greaser, so it makes it a little harder to get out. And what you're going to want to do too is any little bit of excess grease that's stuck in there after you're done, you're just going to want to wipe all that out. Clean it all up nice. You don't want any extra grease sticking out of your bearings. This gives a spot for dirt, stuff to stick onto. All right, there you have it. So hopefully this video helped you get through the process of how to check and change your bearings if need be. We're not going to get right into all the reinstallation with the torque spec, stuff like that. I suggest to check your repair manuals or to check online for your specific torque specs, because they do vary a little bit from machine to machine for certain things, and we just didn't have time to go into all the specifics on that in one video. But hey, if you guys enjoyed this content at all, go ahead, smash those subscribe and notification buttons. It really goes a long way towards helping me build this channel, boys. But for now, I got lots of work to do, so you guys keep the shiny side up, all 4 on the floor, and we'll catch you on the flip side.